What's going on? Welcome on in. Happy Monday. We are live looking at the market. We've got some earnings coming up this week. Netflix, Tesla, Netflix tomorrow, Tesla the next day. So it should be interesting. See how we get some reaction. This just seems like today's kind of a choppy day. We gapped up over the weekend and into today, but haven't really done a lot since. If you were to look at today's price action, that is pretty tough to trade. I personally have not done anything at all today. We had Wi-Fi issues this morning, so it kind of worked out. But otherwise, we'll look at some stuff now and see how things are shaking out and setting up and all that good stuff. Let me just close out some of these apps here because we don't want to waste up space. Yeah, hopefully the stream is okay. We should be upgrading the Wi-Fi soon. Tried to do so today, did so, destroyed everything. So now someone's got to come out and fix it. It's a mess. Xfinity sucks, but who cares? I don't own an Xfinity stock, right? So it's a good thing. But we have got 10 years down. Let's look at these daily charts. Let's take a look at how these look. 10 years down a little bit. The dollar's up a little bit. The Dow is up 0.3. The Russell's up a lot more, so the Russell's doing better. So small caps growth is doing better today. QQQ is barely green, but it's up 0.17, and SPY's up 0.25. It's up 0.25%. So the continuation on SMH. SMH is up again, 0.5%. TLT is up, yeah, because the 10-year makes sense. XBI is up a little bit. ARK, how's ARK doing? It's up 1.5%. It was up a lot more. But it's up. I guess that's Tesla's. Tesla's pulling or dragging it down. That's definitely hurting it. But yeah, it's kind of a just a day. It's just a day. Nothing crazy is going on. Decent moves. You're seeing some in some of the smaller caps and mid caps and these guys who've been a little more higher beta. I mean, they move a little more than the S&P and stuff. So they're moving today because the Russell's doing good. And I say good. It was doing a lot. It looked a lot better, and then it gave it back some. But still holding pretty strong. If you look at IWM's chart, very good push off the open, and it's held up good, for the majority of the day. That said, my positions, I have two positions. Remember how I'll pull up these daily charts so we can look at these. So one was on the Dow, so I'll just pull up DIA. It's on Dow futures, so it doesn't really matter. That's up. We're up on that one. Not surprised, right? As we were up more, but it's up from the entry on the break. Stop loss is here. So if we fall back underneath that, that's our stop, or we hit take profit. That's really it. Simple as that. I have the 2 levels set, and I'm probably going to just leave that trade alone. I'm not going to mess with it unless we start pushing higher from here tomorrow. Maybe I lock some in or move my stop loss to break even, something like that. But for now, there's no reason to touch that. Hasn't moved enough for me to do anything. McDonald's was the other trade. This doesn't look as good. I'm not super surprised, but it is just back testing. My stop is under this 296 area. So I got some runway for the stop, but it doesn't look great, but also not bad. I could easily see it back test this gap and then bounce from there. And if it does, I can always re-enter in on the break of 300 if it happens. So we'll get stopped potentially on that tomorrow or something, and we'll see. There's no reason to get out of it though right now. So the stop is where the stop is, and that's it. That's the deal there. But I was thinking about Home Depot. Remember this one last week? I was like, yeah, it's breaking out, but it was not breaking out on very high volume at all. Volume was actually quite low. And then today we gapped down and have just kind of been sitting in this range. So it shows that it was kind of a good play to not touch that one. Not that, McDonald's is doing better, but we're down a little bit on McDonald's. Would have been down, a few bucks on Home Depot. And then we would have been potentially stopped out because I would have put the stop loss under breaking candle low, or I could have put it at the bottom of the consolidation. I'm not sure what I probably would have put at the bottom of the consolidation. It's a pretty tight consolidation. So we'd be getting close to getting stopped there. Could always play that again later this week, but and that'll be on the watch list for sure if it breaks back over 361. But end up being a decent play to not touch that and just leave it alone. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. But the Dow's up, McDonald's down, so it's kind of flat. One's up, one's down, on the current open trades. But they're swings, so I don't really have they will probably get hit this week. We'll see how fast, whatever. But, it's going to leave. There's nothing to do. What's going on, Flippo? Yeah, very choppy. Even the movement, we got decent movement in Bitcoin today. Kind of trendy, but it's also choppy too in that move, right? Spikes down, spike up, but trending to the downside. Not very nice, not very clean price action. This was the trade that I took on Friday. Was it Friday? Yeah, it was Friday. And I lost a few bucks on it. Not bad. I had the stop pretty tight, but I was looking for the breakdown here under these levels on Bitcoin, and we got it today. Just I was looking for it on Friday, and it didn't happen. But you got the levels and more. Well, pretty much where I was. I was looking for 39-ish. So it's close. It pretty much got it. The move is occurring right now. It's in the middle of the move. But I didn't get back in. I just left it alone. Nothing that set up. Let's see. Was there something that was good? Yeah, you could make the argument that maybe in here, but not really. Yeah, so nothing that was looking great. Silver and gold are down good today. Silver is down. Silver is breaking down under a kilo. We had this level marked out. Not super surprised here. I just missed that one. Could have been a good trade. Oh, man, that would have been freaking good. That would have been good. What time was this? It was last night. Yeah. So if I had been watching at 11 p.m. last night, midnight last night, yeah, it would have been a good trade. But I was not. So there was something there, but a little bear flag kind of setting up in here. This would have been the entry somewhere in there on the breakdown there, which would have been good. But, you know, timing is part of the game too. Missed it, whatever. But now, yeah, silver doesn't look great. However, I would definitely be skeptical of shorting it into these areas because of this still. And because the dollar, well, let's look at the dollar. DXY is, it's got to get above 105, 104.30s for me to get like really interested. So we'll see. We'll see. We'll see. But I'm going to go through the lists and see if anything was triggered. I believe Berkshire Hathaway was triggered. It hit it triggered over the area. Yeah. Yep. This was an alert that I had. I'm going to mark that again. So that we are alerted if that occurs. Yeah, that already happened. But if it happens again, I want to be alerted to it. That could be a trade. But at the same time, I don't know. Is it really? Yeah, could be. Could be. Let's look at other ones. Costco, BlackRock. Nope. BlackRock could be good eventually. Over the 815, 818, 818 area. T-Mobile. Remember T-Mobile we were looking at? And it wouldn't, again, it's not, it technically would be up from what an entry would have been. But not by a lot, and you only have 3 more days until Thursday is earnings, so you got to get out by Wednesday afternoon. So, right, I guess unless earnings are afterwards on Thursday, they are on Thursday. I don't know if it's morning or afternoon. Either way, it's a risk to hold into the day. Yeah, so there's not much there really isn't a lot that I would be like, oh man, I missed out. No, there's not much to be like, oh man, I missed this. Like, not much. Big names. Apple keeps going up pretty solidly. That's looking like it wants to head towards highs. It's got earnings though in a couple of weeks. Adobe looks still pretty good. AMD obviously been a beast. Amazon, that looks pretty good as well. Oh man, talk about a ugly looking wick. That it does look like a lot like ARC, but Enphase. That upper wick looks nasty. Nasty. So would there be a trade there? I don't trade that way, but I mean, that doesn't look like a long to me. But you never know. Google went to a new all-time high, right? Is that an all-time high? Oh no, close, not close. New high of the year of this rally. And then it pulled back a bit. Meta, that's a new all-time high. Is it? Yeah, and Meta hit a new all-time high today. And then it's pulled back a little bit. Yeah, this could be interesting to short. mRNA. Not that I can't trade this one, but I used to on the other broker. I could trade it. This could be a decent short underneath the 97. Microsoft, new big push there. Netflix. Let me get rid of these alerts on Microsoft because I don't really, these lines, because I don't need them anymore. Nvidia hit 600 plus today. Insane move. Remember, I did get in here. This would have been, it's one that kind of hurts to look at that, but timing is part of it. And and looking back, there really wasn't a lot of signs that this is like, oh, it's done. I have to get better. I got to do a better job of figuring out how I want to handle, stopping out of something. But it achieved my targets that I wanted to get, and it, was more than double my risk roughly. So I'd lock the gains in, and there's no problem with that. But definitely had more on the table there, for sure. That is for sure. Tesla looks like, I wouldn't mess with it, but it doesn't look good. Or Wednesday after the close. I mean, what this is telling me, they're estimating a 73 cent per share. And then I'm seeing revenue estimates of 25.663 billion. Who knows though how much that matters? I think a lot of the concern is that Elon posted some stuff where he's like, I don't know if I want to, go deeper into like AI and whatever with Tesla because of his voting power. He doesn't have enough voting power. So he's like, I don't know if he wants, there's like a lot of concern that he may be out, like not out, but he's not going to be as heavily involved. And if he's not heavily involved, what does that do for Tesla? That means that other outlets of their business, maybe don't do as well because he's not, I don't know. So that's kind of been a big part to, it seems like what's been going on. I don't know how much it matters, but he said that, there's a lot more to Tesla than just cars. And once you get into like the fundamentals, if you are into that stuff, you would figure that out fairly quick. There's a lot more involved on that. Oh, wow. Look at that. Snow could be interesting. Is Snow on my list that I can trade? Let's see. Nope. That's unfortunate. But yeah, Snowflake, look at this trade setting up. I mean, you've got a... Damn, man, that could be really good. 2-0, what is that? 202, 203 break. Yeah, if Snow breaks 203, that looks really, really good. Looks really, really good because you're coming out of a wedge. Yeah, just really an area of consolidation. On the bigger time frames, you're coming out of even another area of consolidation from 180 to 200, roughly. And so that could set you up on a nice $20 to $30 move, which would put you up into like this volume node right here. 235 would not be insane to me on Snow if it can break over 203. They don't have earnings for a bit. Their earnings are not till end of Feb, so literally the last day of February. So they got over a month. So that's tradable, I think, or swingable if you're looking at it. I won't trade it because I can't trade it on my broker, but could be something to think about. 160s. Where's Tesla right now? 200-ish? Yeah, it's 208. 160s would be pretty far. I wouldn't be super surprised, though. That's where it was back in April, May of last year. But yeah, overall on Tesla, you got to look at the big picture. Like, and it is, it's just despite, yeah, you can say uptrending on the shorter time frames too. But despite what you're seeing across the market, this is not like this is since 2021 when it put it at that high in there. I mean, it is trending down, and does not look like Tesla used to be the beast leading the pack when everything was going up, kind of like how Nvidia is right now. So I think you're seeing in Nvidia, who knows? Anything can happen because like a fundamental standpoint, I'm not the fundamental guy. But you're seeing like this explosion in price, and eventually it's going to chill. So not doesn't mean that this stock is going to go down necessarily, but eventually this is going to relax and you're not going to be able to achieve these insane returns. You may not outpace the S&P for periods of time, kind of like you're seeing with Tesla, where Tesla is actually performing way worse than the S&P is right now. This is performing way better than the S&P. So it goes through these ups and downs. I think that right now you're obviously in that phase of like, this thing is a beast. It's never going down, like Nvidia. That's kind of where we're at. I mean, you are talking about a stock that Jeez, man, that's insane. That's just insane. Let's go to the weekly time frames. When did this thing come out? 2000? Yeah, so this is a long time. But just this move alone from bear market lows in 2022 to now, you're talking about almost a 450%, nearly a 500% move from COVID lows. Or you can go back to 2018 lows. It's a more notable spot. You're up 1,800%. So you're talking about some insane percentage returns that, like, you don't see very often. And we get into this stuff like, yes, it could keep going. And obviously it is going, right? So it can keep going. But being proactive, understanding that these runs will not last forever is just important so that you don't end up catching yourself, massively FOMOing in and getting hurt and burnt by it. Because this works just like anything else, right? There will eventually come a time when there'll be questions, and AMD is now not a good buy based off of XYZ reasons, and here are the concerns. Like, that's what Tesla is right now. Right? And so it just goes through these cycles. There will always be the next AMD. There'll always be something else. But you're just kind of in the cycle right now of, this is the one. Everyone's going for it. So, ride the wave while we're here. But if you're in the wave from like a bigger picture portfolio perspective, don't be afraid, in my opinion, don't be afraid to lock these gains in, especially as your position starts to substantially outweigh the rest of your portfolio. Why be so overexposed to one thing? So that's my view of it. But overall, let's look at these ETFs, the S&P ETFs. Just look at the sector ETFs and see how the retail sector, it's much better, much stronger than it had been. Yeah, retail looks pretty good. It's doing good today, actually, specifically. We're very good today. XLV, which has been pretty strong, that's looking good. This is what gets me interested, because look at XLV. You're talking about a sector that, if you go to the weekly time frame, it has been in this consolidation mode for years, since 2021. So if you break out to the upside, that could set up, in the coming months, we're not talking like one day, in the coming months, a big time breakout on the higher time frames, which could be really good. So healthcare is one that I think is kind of a cool one to watch because it's setting up nicely. XLU, utilities, this has been pretty weak relative, right? These lower highs, very clear, lower highs you're seeing on XLU. XLRE, real estate, this is very much dependent upon rates. So just kind of do the opposite what the 10-year does. XLP, still some lower highs. Staples not really doing crazy. XLI, industrials, that looks pretty strong too. KRE, it's having a good day today. That's for sure. XLF is having a good day. Banks just broke out to the upside there. Energy, not very strong. XBI, holding up okay. Tilt, TLT, yeah, I mean, based off the 10-year, we kind of know the story there on TLT. Yeah, and then SMH. SMH, let me move this down, actually. And then Jets. There you go. SMH new highs. Jets is flat today. Airlines. There's the Dow breakout. QQQ kind of broke out a couple of days ago. SPY broke out on Friday. And then the Russell, not as strong. Still, not looking bad, but not as strong as everything else. Yeah, I mean, because that's the thing. Especially because here's the thing, when you look at some of these things that have gone up so much, like I think you really have to think in runs. Like you really have to think that this is a game of runs because but like when you audit yourself, like look back through times and through your own experiences, how many times, right, have you been able to chase something and make money consistently? You've probably had a lot of experience where you got burnt, chasing the longs or the shorts. Doesn't matter. You probably got burnt somehow, one way or the other, doing that. So my view of like some of the stocks like Nvidia and whatever, these blasting to new highs, is it doesn't mean like sell it all, but like Apple, like was and has been for people's portfolios. These were massive positions that people built their wealth on over the past decades. That if you haven't locked anything in, there obviously is potential tax repercussions of that, so people don't want to do that. But at the same time, you got to think to yourself, would I rather lock some of this in and pay the tax, or have 65% of my portfolio be Apple, or 75% of my portfolio be Apple and Nvidia? Is that what you want? And because they could keep going, and they may not do bad over the next decade, but is it worth having that much exposure in those companies? I don't know. Like you look at some other big name companies from years ago. IBM is now kind of blasting off as we speak, actually. But IBM, right? Well, let's broaden this chart out. Had this massive run from 93 all the way to 99. Okay, great, cool. Had this big run from 08 all the way up. But then it had this period from 2012. Really, we have still not gotten back to the highs that we saw in 2012. So you kind of have a lost decade, if you will, right, on this. You have a lost decade. Now, there were dividends involved here. They pay a 3.87% yield. So you got dividends. But the thing had from peak to trough, it fell about 57, 58%. So you would have had to weather that storm. And at the same time, inside of that, like, it's almost like, oh, shit. So the way I view it is, and the S&P doesn't have to do anything necessarily. The S&P could go to shit too. But if you are exposed to individual companies, I think it's a good idea to be proactive in locking gains and then taking those gains and saying, well, I don't want to put it to nothing. Well, you can hold the cash and get paid like 5%. You can go to treasuries and get paid like 5%. So that's not a bad idea either. Or if you feel like you're going to FOMO in, and you don't want to miss out if the market keeps going higher, well, there's nothing wrong with SPY or QQQ or DIA or IWM or a mixture of all those. And if we do go higher, you're going to get that. You're still going to get a gain on that money. But if we don't go higher, you're not going to lose as much as what you could see on the downfall of some of these stocks that have brought you all the way up, right? So that's the whole view that I have of it. Just be proactive. The times that we're doing things are going great are not the times to be like putting everything in, all the chips in and stuff. It's a time to be taking chips off the table to make sure that you're going to be okay when we do have a drawdown, which will come, which will come eventually. It's inevitable. You don't know when, and we don't have to try to time that. Who knows? But it will come. So that's my view of it all. The no one ever broke by locking in profit quote, like that's a good one, but at the same time, people can say it's bad. It depends on how you view it, right? You could say that that's a good quote for like an investor, or you can also say it's a terrible quote for a trader because you're taking small gains and you're having massive losses. It's within reason. It's useful, but you got to just be careful of how you're using that, right? Of that mindset. So. Always competitors, yeah, no, that's 100% it. Because NVIDIA right now is a beast, right? This is like, oh, no one can stop it. But that's what the narrative is right now. That's what the thought is now. In 5 years, there could be someone else. And NVIDIA might be, oh, shit, maybe this is not, you know what I'm saying? And now it's like, wait a second. There are XYZ competitors. Things change. The market adapts, right? Who knows? This could happen in 5 years. And then you look at NVIDIA and go, man, that valuation, price to earnings ratio. It's pretty damn high. And it could really just, the air could come out and it could drop, 30, 40, 50%, and it would still be up a shit ton from, a couple years ago. But again, it's about the timing. Maybe you get in and now you're like, holy shit, I'm in at 600 and we fall back to 400. That's not that insane, right? We could totally do that, but that would be a 35% cut to your position, and we're still up a ton. We still would be up a ton, big picture, right? Yeah. It can even fall back to 300 for all we know, right? That, it'd be cut in half, and that would still be up a ton. It was just there a few months ago, so that's kind of how I view it. And I don't personally think that there's a need necessarily to even trade or invest that way. I view it now of there's no FOMO, because the FOMO, I will have my FOMO handled by trading moves that I see. For example, right? Like I played NVIDIA. I got a piece of that, move. Not like an insane amount, but I was in from, 505 to 550 and I got a piece of the move. Yeah, it went higher. Yeah. But so what? I'll take the piece of this move, take those profits, and I'll roll it into SPY. And then I'll take that SPY return and I'll use that to sell covered calls, and I'll just cash flow off that, which is safer, less risky, than holding on to this, which has more reward, more upside, right? Yeah, I get it. But if I'm not going to be the fundamental guy who's doing the research and I know everything about the company, it's tough to say all my chips are on this company, because I don't know what the fuck they do, to be honest. I don't know what they do. And like, yeah, I can say, yeah, chips and this and that. Yeah, sure. AI, yeah. Okay. But do you actually know what they do, the revenue? Do you read the earnings reports? If you're not going to do that, then it's tough to stay heavily invested into individual stocks like that. Where the S&P is the S&P, NASDAQ, Dow, whatever. You pick your poison. Pick whatever you want. Who cares? Doesn't matter. AMD, let's see what that's obviously pushing up to highs too, right? AMD, it was back a couple months back in 2022. The thing was down at $53, and now it popped over 175 on Friday, or even today. It was there. It's like, that's nuts. If I was to stock pick again, it'd definitely be some obscure value. Yeah. And that's how a lot of people make their money too. They find these stocks that they do the research, they find these mid caps or small caps or whatever. And if you do know and you have experience and know what to look for, you can nail some. And all it takes is, one or two big hitters or 2,000% return over a couple of years on something. And, like if you had, found NVIDIA 10 years ago, I mean, you could potentially have made your living, your net worth on one big bet. Now it would have taken a long time to play out, but people have done that and can certainly do that. So it's a different style. There's a million ways to make money. There's so many ways to make money. There's a million ways to lose as well. It just comes down to what you like, what you can see yourself doing and actually understanding and getting good at. It's easy to say, oh yeah, but then it's like, can you stick with that long term and get and do it long enough to learn what you need to learn to actually get good at it? And that's how I honestly, there's a video coming out soon. I don't know, maybe this week or maybe by the end of this week, there'll be some videos coming out soon because I filmed them, but I don't know how long it's gonna take to edit them and whenever I have a chance to. But they will be, I go back through a lot of my trading data from the past, year or 2 years, and I pretty much look back through it. And when I see it, I'm super excited about what I see. But I feel like the spot that I am mentally at now with it is so much better than where it was. And I 100%, it's not that I see the light at the end of the tunnel. There's no end of the tunnel, but I see this I've almost been enlightened to actually knowing what I'm doing and feeling confident about it and not worried about, I'm not worried about necessarily anything. It's if I just stick to what I have been doing, what I know to do, and what I will keep doing, what I have. Well, if I just stick to what I've been doing and slowly kind of, critique that little by little, right? Within reason, no massive changes overnight, but little tweaks here and there. I know I've got something that's already good. It's already really good. And it's got hundreds and hundreds of trades to back it up on, multiple time frames. So I know it's good. Now it's just sticking to that and riding out the, seeing it through versus, trying to nail one thing and then change up everything tomorrow and stuff. There's no need to do that when you've got something that you feel confident in. And that's what it's all about, because that confidence but that confidence then allows you to, it allows you to take control of the mental and psychology side of things, the psychological side of trading, which is the hardest part. So we'll see. This McDonald's doesn't look great. That's one of the swings I'm in. I'm probably going to hold it overnight. It's still a couple dollars off from my stop, so I'm probably going to hold it overnight. The problem is that they have earnings out in like 2 weeks. 2 weeks from now. So there's time, but yeah, there's no reason to. Well, there's no reason to really do anything. I'm not going to move stops. Like I'm just going to leave it. So we'll see. But I do think they could easily come back and backfill this gap, and then whatever it does from there. That's certainly possible on that. First time trading it in maybe ever, which is why I was somewhat skeptical of it. But also I didn't size massively, and the stop is within reason. So it is what it is. Hopefully there'll be other setups this week that we get. But for now, I don't really see a ton. I mean, obviously there's the moves of the Dow looks good, right? Breaking out. The Qs have gone nuts. SPY, yep. It's really going to be, do we get these Netflix and Tesla? How much do they move the market? Is the market waiting for these guys? I don't know. Netflix really has not done a lot. It's been choppy. It's got earnings tomorrow, so we're going to find out pretty good tomorrow. Tesla has earnings on Wednesday, so we're going to find out that. That's been very weak since, the past couple weeks. So we're going to find out how much the market cares about those stocks, and then, from there, let's see if I can pull up some other earnings calendars. So you have some airlines. Oh, United's coming after the close. Yeah, some decent names. Some decent names tomorrow. Decently big names. Netflix after close. AT&T on Wednesday. Tesla, IBM. Yeah, some good stuff. By the end of this week, we'll have, a decent idea of how the market's digesting that. Nothing like, no massive names, but Tesla's a big one. I think a bigger story is probably going to be, it's Bitcoin, yeah, back over 40K. It's messing around with that 40K area. We'll see what ends up happening there. Yeah, big move down to lower 39s. Tomorrow we should have a stream for the open. As long as the Wi-Fi is good. It should be fixed by the end of the week, but well, we're probably not going to be able to stream at the open on Thursday, but we'll stream on the open on tomorrow, and then we'll have our power hours on Wednesday. It'll be good because we'll get Tesla. We'll stick around for Tesla earnings on Wednesday, and then we'll be here Friday. Thursday, we'll see. Maybe I'll stream at some point in the day if it gets fixed fairly quick, but there's a decent chance that we might be dealing with issues that morning. So I'm just going to pretend that that's not, let's assume it's not going to happen on Thursday. Assume that's not going to happen. Let's check it on fear and greed here. See how that looks. Still in high end greed. Sentiment survey. Let's pull up the Fed stuff too. We have 40% bullish as of last reading, 26 bearish, a lot more neutral. And then the current projections for the Fed. Obviously, we're going to get nothing this meeting. The question is, the March meeting is where everyone's eyes are. And there's actually now a pretty good chance, pretty high chance that the Fed does not cut in March. Well, decent chance they do, but based off these numbers, they've been trending towards no cut in March versus cut. So that's something to be, watching. What's going on, RJ? Save calls. Nice. Yeah, that's up nicely. That's up very nicely. I mean, you almost, without even looking at the news necessarily, to me, like, you almost kind of thought like, you're gonna see some bounce, right? But yeah, that's what that's looking like. So I don't know. It's kind of boring today. Gonna be honest. Yeah, I'm not very. It's not bad. It's just like it's not getting a lot of action at all. You would think we'd have bigger earnings that were coming up, but if you look at SPY's chart today, it's pretty crappy. Well, just choppy. Obviously, the gap up. So like if you look at the big picture, like, yeah, we're still up from where we were on Friday. Like, it's up. It's trending higher, whatever it is doing, it is what it is. That's why with my Dow position, it's like, I got in somewhere in here, and it's up, nothing crazy. It's just up. It's up a little bit. So we'll see what ends up happening ultimately, but it would have to fail back to like DIA. Would have to go under 375. So it has to drop off a good bit. It'd have to drop like 1.5% to stop me out, and we're probably about 1.5% to 2% away from a take profit, about probably 2%ish, a little bit less, which means I can go and I can find the exact trade, but it means we probably got to make a nice push into the mid to upper 380s. So it's still got to make a good move of like $6 to $8 probably on DIA, but I think about a $5 risk on it from here. So we'll see what ends up happening first. Netflix and then Tesla. The thing is, like, you could get bad numbers there, and then you could get text, maybe get some weakness, but the Dow may not. So we'll see how that plays out. I'm curious if we see any rotation this week and after these earnings at all. But yeah, I'm not trying to be like super active in these times because we are maybe on the verge of good moves. The problem is that you're breaking out on these bigger charts into like what's about to be earnings season, which is somewhat sketch. The charts are the charts, so we'll see what happens. Like if the charts keep going, the charts keep going. But you just don't want to get caught in, something stupid with a lot of these earnings and caught in the chop. So it's more like bigger picture is what you should be looking at, I think, right now versus narrow-minded 5 minutes, 1 minute charts. I don't think those are really the best place to be, especially between the hours of like 11 a.m. Eastern and like 2 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Eastern. I'd say that's like the time to get the hell out of the way if we're not having a lot of momentum, especially like today. But overall, these don't look like we can be a couple days out from, right back up there on some of these guys. Like look at IWM. You're 196. You're a day or two away from it back up in the 200s, and it's like, oh shit, here we go back over 200s, and now we can be looking at the break to the upside because that's the 200s is like the top of the range, right? So you could easily be there in like a day or two. So that's the thing. And as we saw, you go back a couple of days on SPY. If you go back, like we had this little pullback and we're like, and then 2 days later, boom, broke out. So a lot could change very quick. Save and JetBlue mergers live with appeal. Yeah, that's the Russell could be better. I still we were looking at the charts. Like I still think that's like the better. Well, it's the better chart value. I don't know if it's the better value, but it's clearly the better chart value. Like if you're like, hey, I got some money that I want to put into the market, Do I buy SPY, QQQ, DIA, or the Russell, IWM? I mean, it's tough for me to not say the Russell. Like, it would be tough for me to look at these charts and go, I'm going to go into QQQ. And as we're blasting to all-time highs, it's like, I mean, again, long-term holding is long-term holding, so who really cares? But the Russell just seems like a better value based off the chart, right? It's not near all-time highs. It's got a long way to go. So if it eventually catches up, great. You do well. So 12 minutes till close. China stock's not doing great either at all, right? Let's look at some of these guys. BABA made a new low today, but BABA's tough to play because it has been very weird. Like it opens low and then it gaps down and then it pushes up like all day. It's like what it does. Baidu, remember this stock? It's now under $100. Neo, remember Neo? From back in the day. 6, this was under 6 today at one point. That's crazy. But is it though? Is it crazy? Not really. I mean, look at this. This is actually the same spot right here. Woo-hoo. $7 on the nose. If you had caught the break under $7, you got a nice $1+ move down. I think if you zoom out, let's wait for the volume profile to load back up. Yeah, I mean, we were looking down here under 5, so this is kind of your zone to fill. If Neo goes into here, it gets into here, like it's just at this point in time, it's not worth, in my view, it's not worth shorting it once it goes under $5. But inside of here, it's definitely not looking great for a long. If you're a dip buyer, that's one thing, and you think you know what you're doing, but it's tough. Tough scenes out there in the Chinese stocks. And here's the FedEx. Like, this is exactly what I was saying last week about the shorts. Like, I just don't really, I can't get myself to short stuff with the overall market being this bullish, right? So you had FedEx, like technically this is a decent short breakdown setup that I would trade, and I had an alert, so I watched it go, and I was like, I'm not going to trade it, but it barely went, and then it went whoop right back up. So it's like, okay, we'll be getting stopped out shortly on it now. So Chinese stocks trade weird, yeah. And well, if you watch them and follow them long enough, you can act upon that and do well. But it's tough. It's wonky. They're a little wonky, that's for sure. I would not like the BABA short we were saying. Like it just gapped down so hard. You would have had to essentially like enter a little early on this day to have nailed this move down and anticipate, the breakdowns. If you anticipated those breakdowns, you would have gotten in the low 70s, and then you'd be looking great right here. But if you didn't anticipate them and waited for the actual breakdowns, you would have waited. You'd be getting these big gap downs overnight, and so then you'd short once the market opens if you did, and then you'd be stuck in these positions that just don't move all day because it's just the moves are happening seemingly overnight. Now, maybe that's because the market's over there, different hours. So that's part of it. But they can move during the day here too, I'm sure. But there's a lot of gaps on BABA over the past months and even years. A lot of overnight gaps. This again is because it's a Chinese company. Shit's going on over there. News breaks. Things happen overnight, before we open up. So that's hence the gap downs, gap ups. A lot more gap downs, I guess, past couple of months for sure. Coinbase, I'm surprised, is actually up today. So it's funny how it's a stock that doesn't really trade with Bitcoin. It's a combination of S&P up or down. Well, tech, S&P. How is that all doing? How is the risk on all doing? How is Bitcoin doing? So it's a combination of all those things. And then of course their own news and stuff. So that's why it's tough. That's also tough to trade because it's not as clean of like, oh, Bitcoin's down. Well, must be getting a good, no, it's not always a short. As you see today, it's up to 2.5% when Bitcoin is actually down 3%. There's been days when Bitcoin was down 3%, market's been red and whatnot, that Coinbase is down 6, 8, 10 plus percent. It's had those days for sure. Hopefully the stream is not terrible. I know it's probably a little choppy. That'll be fixed shortly though. Very, very shortly within the coming days. But plan is tomorrow we'll do a stream in the morning. We'll do one on Wednesday, and Thursday probably nothing because I don't think we're going to be able to do that with Wi-Fi being fixed and worked on. And then Friday back to power hour, normal time, normal usual business. Upstart. Wow, look at how weird that thing trades too. Big move. It's tough to trade these on the 5-minute chart. Daily is best. Daily is best. Good volume on that today, though, too. On Upstart. So I said sentiment was looking pretty good. Not as bullish as it has been, but it's up there. Fear and greed, just chilling at 72. Get rid of some of these things. Fed, good chance we're gonna get a continuation of the pause, obviously for this coming meeting on which is next Wednesday, I believe. But then March, we've actually been trending more and more towards no hike. So that means that May we get a hike. It's a good chance in May we get a hike. May or June, I think, is when I think the stars are aligning. Like May or June is when we're thinking hikes. Not that that really matters. It matters, right? But it's not like that makes or breaks, a lot of things. I think that's just good stuff to know. I am very curious to see how this plays out this year with cuts and how the market does once we start cutting. And the reason why is because we've seen it many times over history that once the Fed starts cutting, that's actually a time where the market has had a good run up before that, and then it actually starts to roll over. Now, to varying degrees, that's the thing. Is that going to be what we see this year? Do we get a nice push early? Fed starts cutting, and then we have a pretty shitty middle of the year, maybe into end of the year, and then, or middle to, September, October, and then a bounce last 2 months, which are seasonally pretty strong. I don't know. We'll see. But if you get a really good drawdown in mid-year, that could be dollar cost averageable into like longer term holdings. So we'll see. I'm slowly. It's painful, not painful, but it's I have to do it. Is trimming out of my Robinhood portfolio. Partially for taxes, which I have still not calculated how much money I have to still pay in taxes, but I have to still figure that out. Once I figure that out, I'll have a better sense of it. But I'm just using that money, paying down shit that needs to be paid down that has higher interest rates. Simple as that. While the market's going up. And then once all that stuff's done, we'll be able to funnel a lot more money into the Robinhood portfolio. Hopefully in a year or so. But no rush. I mean, you when you have that feeling of rush, FOMO, you make decisions that you make a lot of poor decisions, I think. So trying to avoid that. Not at all costs, but I just trying to avoid that as much as possible. That's the plan. So this week on Thursday, Friday, you've got good stuff. So you got Tuesday, Wednesday earnings reports. Like Tuesday with Netflix, Wednesday with Tesla, and then you got quarter 4 GDP. Cool, that's on Thursday, and then you've got PCE data on Friday. So we heat up, like we were saying last week. We heat up, and we heat up quick. So this week should get progressively more interesting. Tomorrow could be pretty boring until the Netflix earnings are out, which wouldn't be super surprising, but we'll see. Boringness, though, I think it's good and bad because it's good because it's it's showing what real, what really goes down. It's like a lot of it is boring. It's bad because it is boring, right? It's like, shit, do I want to bother with this shit today? But it's the majority of the time, I think, is not always going to be crazy moves. We're going up, we're going down. Like, holy shit, we got to do something. Like, no. We're just waiting around. See if I can find any interesting. I don't know. I don't know if there's any Chiefs fans in the building, but if they win, in my opinion, if they win next week, rigged. It's rigged. It's rigged, and I don't like it. Don't like it. Bills didn't look great yesterday offensively. Did not. So it's fair. It's what it is. But I really think that the Ravens absolutely should win the Super Bowl. Should win the Super Bowl. We'll see if it ends up panning out that way. They are the best team. I don't think it's even remotely close right now. That is the team. So the year of the Harbaughs, right? Jim and John both going to potentially win championships. Vix, yeah, I mean, you can look at it. It's kind of boring as well, right? With how it hasn't really been doing a ton. It's technically it's trending up, but you know how that can go. It could be unwound very quickly. VIX is always an interesting thing to look at in going long as we're blasting to lows on the VIX. And there's the market close there just now. I haven't really built. I know people can build strategies around it, but I haven't really personally gotten too deep into it. Bill screwed up the field goal. Yeah, but the thing is, though, same with the Packers guy, Bills kicker and the Packers kicker. Two tough misses that I don't necessarily. You can't say it cost the game because those kicks wouldn't have won the game, but it would have at least potentially put those games into overtime. Versus them losing the game. So it's tough scenes, but that's just part of the NFL these days. It seems like kickers have gotten really, really good over the years. Just they've gotten better and better. Where like during the regular season, again with different conditions, wind, cold, I don't know how that affects things, like how much that affects things. But it seems like you can be, if you can't kick 50-yarders consistently, like you're not you shouldn't be kicking. It's because that's and I feel like years ago, like 50-yarder, holy crap, that's pretty dang far. Now it's like if you can't nail 50-yarders, you're getting cut. So it's like the expectations have continued to go up and up and up for them over the years. Better than Ravens in Vegas right now. Yeah. I mean, they're probably the favorites, I would assume. Let's look at that. Super Bowl odds. I would assume they've got to be the favorites. Whoa, they're not. They're not. The Niners are. I mean, I don't know about you, but that's a bet to me. Now, it's not like you're going to make a ton of money because if you bet the Niners, you bet $100, you win 145 with a plus 145 line or whatever. You bet the Ravens $100 wins 190. Honestly, that's like I would, you know what? Like as I say that right now, I honestly, it wouldn't be a lot of money, but I would heavily consider that as like a doubler. Like go if you can double your money, put in $100 and make $200, and then it's kind of like, oh cool. That's how I view that. I think that's the place. That's the bet. And if there's a team, I think the Niners are certainly the next team that could do it. The Chiefs. Yeah, they got the experience. Lions, I'm sorry, I just don't think there's any chance. I don't think there's any chance the Lions are going to do it. But I think the Lions probably get destroyed by the Niners this weekend. And then I think that if the Ravens can win, they should win the Super Bowl because they destroyed the Niners in that game. Now, of course, tough to beat a team twice, but I would suspect, could be wrong. The Niners could be really good if they have a good game plan, but the Ravens D is pretty good from what I've seen. Want to go for Detroit? I will be a Detroit fan. I have nothing against that because it would be sick to see them get to the Super Bowl. I just don't think that they can beat the Niners. You never know. They have a good game. They have a good game, right? The Niners didn't play good on this weekend. They did not. The Packers almost won that game, which if the Packers won that game, it's like, holy crap, that would be insane. But they very well should have. They were the better team for, I think, the majority of the game. So Eagles almost won last year. No, it hurts. That one hurts because if Jalen Hurts is the guy and the offense can stay, fairly okay together. The problem this year was they lost the offensive and defensive coordinator. So when Eagles lost both coordinators, it's when you have a good year, it's great. But if you don't win the Super Bowl, like you get that close, it sucks because there's a good chance your coordinators are going to go and your coaches at different positions are going to go get other roles and other teams. So you have like the backbone to your team is now like not really there. And so it's tough. And that just ruined them this year. And they were never the same, even from the beginning of the year, even when they were at 10-1. From watching them, I'm like, this team is not that good from what I have seen compared to last year. And it eventually caught up with them. But tough to see. I would love it. This is not a bet that I would like. You could, and the way that these odds work, like you can throw, say you threw $100 at the Lions, you could make $750, if they win. So you could hedge your bet with something like that. You can bet the Lions and then bet like the Ravens, and then if if the Ravens don't win and the Lions do, great. But then chances are one of the other two teams will win and you'll lose both bets, and then you're like, oh fuck, that's how things usually end up going when it comes to sports betting. So I don't know, but that does look that looks appealing to me. I don't know. Maybe there's something's up with the odds. I don't know, but that looks appealing to me. Either way. With that said, we'll be back tomorrow around open for like a live trading session. We'll see. There's a good chance that, I'll look for stuff. We'll see what happens. If nothing happens, nothing happens. I have 2 open positions. We'll look at those, and we'll kind of watch how things are playing out from there. So thanks so much, guys, and I'll see you tomorrow or Wednesday.